Last week I sold my Bitcoin BTC and my Ether ETH, and in an article entitled Bitcoin, Time to Exit I said I thought it could go to $40,000 but I didn't have the nerve for the next 20%. I said I thought $40,000 was the most likely top, but in effect I didn't care because I had to sell to keep to the law of diversification. The file name is even called BTC Top. In November I wrote about a rise to $40,000 and a fallback to perhaps as low as $5,000, although $10,000 is probably savage enough, and anything below $20,000 starts to get interesting again for a DCA dollar cost averaging strategy. Well, I do not claim clairvoyance, but it will look pretty good on Forbes in the coming years. So I think I have earned another ticket on calling what is next. To put it bluntly, I think it's all over for this run. Crypto is now a trade, not an investment, and will stay that way for a long time. The price could and probably will go all over the place, but it is unlikely to go far above the recent high, and it is extremely unlikely to maintain or beat a level of $40,000 to $50,000 if it does. BTC won't make its next significant high until the next halvening, scheduled for 2024, and that will see us in a different world. I think Bitcoin will repeat the fallback it suffered in 2017, just as the rise of that bubble has repeated. There is a caveat: if inflation runs wild, then price predictions are irrelevant. A picture paints 1,000 words, and inflation of any scale will warp any prediction unless you want the complexity and fuzziness of inflation adjustment. That aside, as I write, BTC is $35,000, up from yesterday's $30,000 and a bit. Believers will say, this is what Bitcoin does. It is now going up to $200,000. Sadly, I don't think that is in the cards. It does well to remember that US M1 cash is just $7 trillion and was only $4 trillion before COVID. Bitcoin will not compete with that scale in the next few months, so $200,000 a coin is a wildly unlikely destination on any relevant timescale. It was sad to sell out, and I re-entered Ether the next day but sold out on Sunday after a most fortunate decision to give up on being stretched on the rack by the wild volatility. Ether could run on up for a few weeks after the top of Bitcoin, as it did in the last bubble. Worried but passionate Bitcoiners will likely flip into Ether in the belief there is upside there and temporary safety from a Bitcoin crash. I took that route last week, but it was simply gambling, and I sobered up in time to miss out on getting kicked in the teeth. Although as I write, Ether is holding up pretty well, as might be expected in the short term. This is how ETH versus BTC played out last time, and you can see the Ether lag. If you want to try and play that game, it's there to be had, but for me, my trading nerves have gone with the brown in my hair.